Hey, what's up guys, it's Liam or Weagle on your Overwatch, back with a new video today. Does Winston need a buff? That is the question at hand. I've seen a lot of cries in the community that Winston isn't used enough or isn't good enough or viable within the current meta of Overwatch, and just in general that he doesn't do enough damage or his bubble needs a better cooldown. Today I want to break all of that down, whether he should or shouldn't be buffed, but the comment section is where you guys need to let me know what you think. So the first thing that I think is important to address is that Winston has always been underrated in the matchmaking community in Overwatch. He's always been very good at the pro level until this current meta that's very tank heavy, and that's because Winston's not very good against tanks. But before that, when Genji was used all the time, we had McCree's on the map a lot more, Winston was used constantly, especially by the pros, because you could dive in, bubble in with Zarya, you then get Winston's bubble, you can initiate on that, you can follow up with your team, and it was a great part of a dive comp, which admittedly is now harder to play, but until this current tank meta, Winston's always been good, and the question whether he should be nerfed or buffed was never really asked. But one thing that's been true about Winston in matchmaking since the start of the game, and it still holds true now, is that he is massively underrated. If you play him against an unorganized team within matchmaking, he's a very, very good pick a lot of the time. Now, if the enemy team are running a very organized triple tank or quad tank setup, then Winston isn't very good. But how often do you truly see a decent triple or quad tank setup? It's not that often. Even if they're running triple tank, Winston can still be used to destroy the healers, to get in the backline, and just overall make your team initiate better. Not only is he good at initiation, but he has guaranteed damage, and on a lot of maps, particularly the King of the Hill maps, his ultimate is very good for knocking people off of the map and winning team fights outright. So why do people ask for a Winston buff, and why would people want a Winston buff, and what would they want doing? The most common one I see is for his gun to do more damage, or his bubble to have less cooldown so you get it more often. Now, I agree with you that up against Defense Matrix or Ryan's Shield, for example, that it's not the best barrier in the world, but it's designed to do a specific task. Now, what would happen if they were to buff Winston in just about any way is it would be the D.Va effect. D.Va was always in a rough spot, but she did have a goal and people did use her from time to time. That's where Winston is now. If you was to buff him by much at all, he would become the new D.Va. If his barrier absorbed more damage, then he'd instantly be really, really good. If you gun it more often, that barrier, the amount you can have it, lets you stay in the team fights for too long. Winston has always been no brain, no aim, I'm a Winston main. That's how everyone knows him, but really, it's all brain playing Winston. You have to be able to get into the fights at the right time with your team, do some damage and get out of the fight, or drop a bubble so that your team are protected, or if someone on your team gets hooked, jump into it and drop in the bubble right in the right place so that they can't get killed by the Roadhog. There's a lot of skill to Winston in terms of timing, game sense, bubble placement, jumps. Landing a jump on someone is much better than landing next to someone and shooting them, because the jump does damage, but it's hard to land on them. There's a particular skill to that. If you make him like D.Va, where there's no punishment for him to jump in and drop a barrier because he gets another one, or because the barrier is really, really good, or if you give him more health or more damage, he becomes very, very strong all of a sudden. Now, if we want to see Winston back in the meta again, what's going to have to happen is the triple tank thing's going to have to stop, and it looks like Blizzard are trying to work towards doing that. Ana's getting a nerf, D.Va's getting the nerf she deserves, and Winston will be more in the right place when he can kill squishies again, because that's his job. And we already did a video about the return of the dive comp, which we want to see because we think it's a very, very fun way to play Overwatch. This whole tank heavy stood there trying to get hooks with shields everywhere and Symmetra spamming into the choke, that's not what we want to see from Overwatch. And we've always been a little bit biased towards Winston, but we've always thought he was in a good spot, and it looks like Blizzard aren't fixing him or changing him in any way anytime soon. They've not even mentioned it, and that's just because he is one of the heroes that will come in and out of the meta depending on what the meta is. Other heroes are like this as well. At the minute, Genji doesn't see a lot of use because, again, he's not fantastic against tanks. But once there's less tanks, Genji becomes more meta. That doesn't mean he needs a buff, and Winston is within the same realm as this. I think it's important to talk about D.Va and Winston in these ways, about dropping in and out of the meta, because every change that Blizzard make has a knock-on effect to how everything else works. When tanks get nerfed, then it brings the squishies back into the game, but then if a squishy is too good, then they may get nerfed again, and that'll bring a tank back into the meta more often. Every single change that's ever happened has always directly affected something else. When McCree got changed, it made it so that Genji was better, because McCree's weren't picked as much and he counters Genji, etc. Now, these changes are always going to be interesting and not always predictable, but Winston's definitely in that spot where he fits a niche role, just like D.Va used to. And I think it's fine to have some core heroes in the game and some to the side that will be usable. Overwatch will never be in a place where all 24 heroes are the best choice. It's simply not possible, but it is possible to get it to a place where there's a few core heroes and others are interchangeable depending on what the enemy team choose. It's always good to be counter-picking the enemy team than having to pick default, and if we were to buff Winston, that's exactly what we would have. We'd have Winston as an instant pick every time, and what might even be scary if that were to happen is people might run more tanks, because that's one thing Winston sucks at. If the enemy team are running a Winston because he's now all of a sudden god tier, more tanks will come back into the game, and that's definitely not something that we want to see in Overwatch again anytime soon. Let me know what you guys think. The comment section is the place to go. Do you want to buff Winston? Personally, I want him to be really good, but I think he already is. It's just that the meta doesn't allow him to be. If he needs the buff, one day Blizzard will give it to him, and I'd be very happy for that, because I think Winston's already very, very good. Let me know what you guys think, and be sure to check out our Twitter, where we tweet funny stuff, videos, live streams, etc. We also have a Discord where you guys can group up with people and find the Winston main of your dreams. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitch, where we stream every single day. Be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed, and have a great day as always. Take care and peace, people.